Hello and welcome to the lesson. Today we're going to learn how to work with the Descendant and Ancestor selectors. Nearly all elements within the code are children, or at least descendants of other elements. What does this mean? For example, the head and body elements are children of the HTML element. These LI elements are children of a UL element. Different LI elements may be the children of an OL element. On the other hand, we can say that the UL and OL elements are parents of the LI elements. How do we make use of this? I'd like to make all items in the first list red. How can I do this most efficiently without changing the color of the items in the second list? I'll use what's called the Descendant selector. First, I'll specify the parent, which, in this case, is the UL element. Next, I'll specify the Descendant element. Inside the brackets, I'll add the color property and set its value to red. After refreshing the page, we can see that only the LI elements with the UL element as their parent change their color. Next, I'll show you another type of selector in a new document. Notice that both lists now contain headings enclosed within the strong element. I've also used this element to emphasize the first items in both lists. I think that both headings would look better if they were underlined. I'll add a selector for the strong element inside the style definition. To underline the headings, I'll specify the text decoration property and set the value to underline. As we already know, an element selector applies the styling to all occurrences of the element throughout the whole website. After refreshing the page, we can see that both strong elements inside the lists are now underlined. How do we limit underlining only to the headings? We use the so-called child selector. In front of the strong element selector, I'll add the name of its parent, which is body. I'll add the greater than symbol between the two element names. After a refresh, we can see that only the headings are underlined. So how does this work? Remember that this selector selects only those strong elements that are children of the body element. That means that they are not enclosed within any other element. The strong elements inside the lists are not children of the body element because they are also enclosed within other elements such as LI, UL, or OL. We'll test our last selector type in a new document. Notice the two third-level headings and the paragraphs under each of them. I'd like to display just those paragraphs that directly follow a heading in boldface. In this situation, we can use the so-called adjacent sibling selector. You can easily see it here in the code. The heading is always adjacent to the first of each of the two paragraphs. I'll start by specifying the H3 selector inside the style element. Then I'll add the plus symbol and the name of the adjacent element. In our case, it's the P element. To change the paragraph to boldface, I'll specify the font weight property between the brackets and set the value to bold. After refreshing the page, we can see that all paragraphs that directly follow H3 elements are now displayed in boldface. I'll change the first H3 element to H2 and refresh the page. As you can see, the boldface effect has disappeared. Why? It's because this paragraph is no longer adjacent to the H3 element. Instead, it's now adjacent to the H2 element. In this lesson, we went through some advanced selectors, which can help you avoid overuse of classes and identifiers. I look forward to seeing you at the next lesson.